this again. This is GOS. This is something new I'm trying on my channel. This is in celebration of Man on the Moon 3. Man, that album is so good that it threw a wrench in everything. But I wanted to analyze the trilogy, the smaller end trilogy encompassed within Kid Cudi's discography. But like I said, Man on the Moon 3 threw a wrench in everything. So if this episode is successful, I'd like to rate and review every single album in his discography, all 10, and rate each and come up with my top 10. I have been a huge fan of Kid Cudi since 2008. Day and Night came out. That motivated me to go listen to A Kid Named Cudi. And eventually I would become a diehard listening to Man on the Moon 1 and 2 because I was in a dark place at that point. And it I really related to it. So the goal is to try and create not only more Cudi fans, but also create discussion amongst other Cudi fans on my channel. So what we'll do is we'll listen to each song in the Solo Dolo trilogy and analyze it in terms of the lyrical content and the production, as well as the atmosphere. Kid Cudi has a talent for creating an atmosphere to his music. He's very unique in that aspect. It's almost psychedelic without drugs. You don't have to do drugs to like Kid Cudi, that's for sure. But he's still, extremely relatable to a lot of people. I just knew someone that committed suicide, so I want to make that a big avenue for this channel, is talking about mental health. And I think Kid Cudi is the perfect way to create that type of discussion, because he can connect so many people of different backgrounds in that way. So analyzing the Solo Dolo trilogy, Kid Cudi's evolution. So the original Solo Dolo was on Man on the Moon 1. It was the first track of Act 2, Rise of the Night Terrors. And it has the, in parentheses, Nightmare, which is a common theme throughout that album. It was produced by Emil Haney. And Solo Dolo contains a sample of The Traitor performed by the Minahan Street Band. So let's go ahead and listen. Those strings probably make this the most beautifully produced track on the first album, on Man on the Moon 1. They're just so haunting and dark. This is one of the songs that just gives me visuals. And past In My Dreams, which is the intro to Man on the Moon 1, this particular song is what introduces the strings and gives this whole album a kind of cinematic feel. It's incredibly produced. In that particular first verse, he says he doesn't have anybody, but what he hopes is that the sounds of sanity keep continuing, and later on in the song he talks about the sounds of insanity looping themselves. And he's basically just telling himself that he doesn't want to, he won't be afraid if, what is going through his mind is sanity, It's just something, especially me, I can relate to this so much, especially when I was younger. That part about soaring through paradise when I'm closing my eyes, I included that visual that I have when I hear that part in the intro. Yeah, when you're listening to this song, I don't know, at least for me, I imagine dancing strings, and then I imagine, when you close your eyes, you're soaring through paradise. When you're asleep is the way I look at it. Or just, when you're in your own mind and you're closing your eyes with headphones on, you feel comfort, I guess is the best way to put it. And I think everyone can relate to, why must it feel so wrong when I try and do right? Especially when you're a young kid, you don't really know what right is or wrong. You're still learning that as a kid, and obviously that's who Kid Cudi speaks to. The main part, and verse 2 perfectly explains, what this song is about. You know, personally, myself, I related to this because I was kind of a loner in high school, and it's hard to make friends. Party friends are not real friends. So, uh, I had a hard time making real friends. Um, so he's asking himself questions. He's confused. This comes from a confused, depressed state, this whole song. I think we all ask that question if you are relating to that particular aspect of Kid Cudi. You ask yourself, are you? Is there something wrong with you? Are you doing everything right? Why can't you, why do you feel so alone, you know? And that hit me deep when I first heard this song. And plus, you know, the freaking production. And this kind of goes into a little bit of growth as well with Kid Cudi. Um, you know, eventually you reach a point when you have a hard time making friends that you kind of resort to anger, and that's kind of what Solo Dolo Part 2 becomes. But him flipping the bird to the ones who figure him an outcast, you know, that's kind of how I felt about it too. Progression from sadness to anger to peace. And that's something we'll hear throughout, you know, this trilogy. And I just love that line. Traveled out an igloo, cold, cold world wasn't fit for me at all. Uh, that's relatable too. Uh, yeah, especially right now. It is a cold, cold world. That particular verse just gives me goosebumps. So in verse 1, he talks about having nobody, and then he talks about he's hoping, you know, what he feels are the sounds of sanity, and he hopes it's continuously looped. Whereas in verse 4, he says he doesn't need anybody, and then he's talking to us, saying, this is what you feel are the sounds of insanity. And he's hoping that what he hears loops itself to finish me, which, I mean, you can interpret that as suicide or, you know, just coming to closure with being alone. That one is that gives me goosebumps, and I've been listening to this song for 10 years. It's crazy. And probably the most relatable two lines on this entire song. You know, everyone doesn't practice what they preach, I should say. These next two lines. When will I ever learn from the words in my song? It's just relatable. As you go through life, you see that a lot of people will tell you that you're not smart enough or not good enough, but the critique is coming from someone that probably isn't smart enough or good enough, you know? I'm kind of rambling, but this particular song just comes from a place of sadness, confusion, and it kind of changes a little bit. He evolves throughout each verse. You know, he doesn't have anybody, and he's kind of sad about it. In verse 2, he's asking questions about, you know, why is he alone? Why does he feel like he's doing so wrong? And then verse 3, he just shifts to, you know what? F you guys. You don't like me. You know, you don't want to be my friend. Whatever. I'll just keep doing me, you know? And then in the final verse, he says he doesn't need anybody. And this song, the production is probably the best on Man on the Moon 1. It just has so many layers to it, like an onion, and that onion will make you cry. This is one of the Cudi classics for sure. So we're digging into Solo Dolo Part 2, which was on the Indica album, which came out in 2013, I believe, featuring Kendrick Lamar. And like this song, like Indica, every song on that album except for one, I believe, was produced by Kid Cudi. It's probably one of his most impressive albums because he produced, wrote everything. And he, like the second half of Solo Dolo 1, he comes out in this song and he just says he doesn't need anybody. You just hear a completely different tone when it comes to this particular this song in comparison to Solo Dolo Part 1. He's just angrier, you know? And like I said, I related to that. I was confused, sad as to why I couldn't make real friends outside of the party life. But then it just eventually grew to anger. And so obviously I related to this, what he said. Really, he's just, you know, he's embracing being solo dolo, lonely, and coming from a place of anger, just talking to people that hate on him. I remember a lot of people criticized Cudi because he didn't sound as good off the drugs, which is the stupidest thing you could criticize someone for. But he seems to just have embraced being lonely in this song, but he's angry about it. And the rest of the song, and I think that's a lot of the issues that some Cudi fans will have with this song, is it's too much Kendrick Lamar. But at the time, Kendrick Lamar was 2013. That was when he broke out, and he was the hottest thing in hip hop. Still, probably the best rapper there is right now. But yeah, that's the second part of this song. Kendrick Lamar just he kind of outshines Cudi on this song. I mean, Cudi spits, you know, everyone's heard Heaven on Earth by now, I'm sure. Cudi's verse, that reminds me of, you know, this is the vibe I got when I listened to Heaven on Earth. Kendrick Lamar just kills it. Good Kid, Mad City was such a great album. He kills it. And you can hear the Kendrick Lamar encompasses it really well in the fact that this song is about anger and just basically talking a bunch of trash to the haters. And like I said, it's an evolution. In terms of production, I really like that production. I know that some people won't, especially in comparison to Solo Dolo Part 1, but the production was really good. I thought Cudi did a good job on this particular song and for most of the album. You know, I've already pretty much covered it, but the second half of Solo Dolo Part 1 kind of talks about him kind of being angry about it. Well, it comes into this song and he's just talking crap to people that are hating on him. And I remember at this time, Cudi had a lot of hate because he stopped doing drugs and people thought he sounded completely different. I think people just grow. And in a sense, Kendrick Lamar was a perfect person to put on this particular track, Solo Dolo Part 2. The dude killed it on the chorus and his verse. Just talking a bunch of crap. I think people critique this song in a sense that it doesn't sound like a Solo Dolo track, especially because the original Solo Dolo came out 2 or 3 years before this one. And I just see it as an evolution because 3 stages of grief in this particular case. You go from sadness, depression, you know, questioning yourself, and then you get angry. When I say 3 stages of grief, I'm talking about grief, you know, feeling lonely inside, depressed, all that. I think anger is definitely an emotion that comes out when you feel that way. All right, so now we're jumping into Solo Dolo Part 3. It was produced by Kid Cudi, audio anthem Dot the Genius, and Plain Pat. And it contains a sample of Score, performed by Nicholas Bertel, taken from the 2019 film The King. I have actually not read the lyrics while listening to this song, but I was able to kind of develop an interpretation before reading the lyrics. So I'll see how much that changes when I read the lyrics alongside the song. One of the common elements to the production is the horse in the background, which I love. And initially, so I don't know how much my interpretation is going to change once I listen to the lyrics, but the horse in the background just makes the beat, the production sound so peaceful. Here where I live, you can drive an hour to the mountains and the forests, and every time I see a horse running around in the meadow or whatever, or just eating, it's just a peaceful sight. So that's how I imagined. That's how I interpreted the song at first, like he's coming to peace. But we'll see. That piano or that keyboard or whatever that is, that gives me goosebumps, and that gave me the solo Dolo vibe when I first heard it. Still getting, from what he's saying, he's talking about these issues and, overcoming them, and he's alone trying to embrace these issues, trying to battle these issues, I should say. Yeah, definitely lyrically, solo Dolo. He feels like he's deep in hell, in the dark corners of hell, and he's bringing back the dreams, his dreams where he feels the most peaceful. The way I interpret those particular lines, he's talking about basically trying to grow as a man, but he's still damaged inside, and it's making it difficult to grow. We'll see how this progresses. I swear that song gets more and more beautiful the more I listen to it, and this is the first time I've read the lyrics as I've listened to the song. So he's definitely including his religion, his faith, and it seems like he's utilizing that to help him get through these issues. He's still damaged, from what happened to him earlier in life. But I still get the same vibe that he's using his faith to grow as a man, and he's kind of at peace at being alone because he'll always have God. That's the way I interpret it. I know that other people will interpret it different. I know that someone mentioned another interpretation on the Kid Cudi subreddit, but this is the way I interpret it, and production, freaking great. Like the rest of the album, it's fantastic. Is it better than Solo Dolo 1? Probably not, but with the horse in the background and just the production overall just seems so peaceful. And then what he's talking about in the lyrics, I feel like overall the transition through the Solo Dolo trilogy perfectly encompasses what Kid Cudi has done, or how much he has grown as a man since he blew up in 2008, 2009. He went from being sad, depressed in Solo Dolo 1, kind of went through a transition to anger. And then, obviously, Solo Dolo Part 2, he was angry. That was just anger, And then in this one, it seems like he's come to peace with being alone because he has the Lord with him. And, I'm not the most religious person in the world, but I am married to someone that is. And I think that it's good to have religion in your life in that way. Because especially right now with this quarantine, and suicide is upwards of 300% right now. It's a damn shame. Depression, that's probably unmeasurable at this point. The amount of people going through depression right now. Man on the Moon 3 came out at the perfect time for a lot of people. This album is going to save a lot of lives, just like Man on the Moon 1 and 2 did. But like I was saying, he's just transitioned and he's progressed from being depressed and sad and confused. He was angry, and then he's just kind of at peace now with his loneliness, you know. And in the album, you'll see that he kind of evolves. He needs to he talks about loving himself, and then he has a song called September 16th where he's talking about loving someone else. Really, you can't love anyone else without loving yourself first. But um, I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Please hit the subscribe, the like, you know, all that, the share. You know, I'd like to create a community on this particular channel to have communication with other Cudi fans or new Cudi fans. Hopefully there's a lot of new Cudi fans after this Man on the Moon 3 album. I would like to introduce you guys to his entire discography. So hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think. How do you interpret each song? How do you vary? What do you disagree with? All that. All right, later, Essentials.